What's the one thing that comes to mind when we think about big data? It might be the fact that it's big. I mean, it's hard to miss. It's right in the name, big data. But how big is it? Let's find out. If you're new to this channel, please don't forget to subscribe. Videos are added each week on various data topics such as big data to help you become a more knowledgeable data professional. Today's video will explore the size, the volume of big data. We'll see how big is big data. Please stay until the end of the video to find out some shocking revelations about big data. To start peeking at how big is big data, let's turn our attention to our smartphones. Now, an average of 1,358 new apps are being released on the iOS Apple App Store per day. Obviously, this number varies. This statistic, for example, shows the average number of new iOS apps per month as of August 2020. And during this last measure period, approximately 31.8 thousand mobile apps were released through the Apple App Store. What about the Android app releases? Well, in a similar vein, this stats shows the average number of new Android apps being released in the Google Play Store per month. We can see that about 111,000 mobile apps were released through Google Play Store. And listen, I don't know if you're an Apple fan, if you're an Android fan, that's not the point. It's not a competition. The point is that there are a lot of apps getting added to these stores. A lot of apps getting updated, and there's a lot of apps that are being downloaded. And of course, there's a lot of data that these apps create and consume. How much? Well, let's turn to Google for that answer. And actually, if we were to do a Google search right now, we would be one of the 40,000 search queries happening this very second. That's 5.5 billion Google searches every day. That was the total world population in 1992, 5.5 billion people. That's a whole world worth of searches. Back to our question, how much do our phone apps consume? Well, it seems like most apps and activities consume between 60 megabytes and 300 megabytes of data in 1 hour. TikTok and Instagram are the most data hungry apps, eating up to 840 megabytes and 720 megabytes per hour, respectively. So maybe stay off your data plan when you're using those two apps. Meanwhile, let's turn back to our question, how big is big data? Facebook can also give us an example of how big is big data. Why? Because they have 2.2 billion monthly active users. Coincidentally, 2.2 billion is also how many cups of coffee get consumed every day. I don't know which statistic I'm more amazed by. Maybe the coffee. By the way, are you a coffee drinker or a tea drinker, or neither? Please let me know what your morning drink of choice is, and don't forget to bring it on the next Good Data Morning Show. So those are only a few of the examples of big data. If you're not yet convinced that big data is big, let me give you another number. And that number is 294 billions. 294 billion emails are sent daily. To put this in perspective, our Milky Way galaxy has an estimated 300 billion stars. And no, that's not the shocking revelation about big data. That's still to come, and until then, I would like to provide you with a few more examples of how big data is. In 2017, Walmart handled more than 1 million customer transactions every hour. All these transactions were imported into databases estimated to contain more than 2.5 petabytes of data. That's 2,560 terabytes. That's the equivalent of 167 times the information that's contained in all the books in the US Library of Congress. eBay, even more, 7.5 petabytes of data. And the examples can go on. And the size, the volume of big data ranges. The New York Stock Exchange generates about 1 terabyte of new trade data per day. A single jet engine can generate 10 plus terabytes of data in 30 minutes of flight time. With many thousand flights per day, generation of data reaches up to many petabytes as well. IBM maintains that businesses around the world generates 2.5 quintillion bytes of data daily, if not more. How much is 2.5 quintillion? Well, this would fill 10 million Blu-ray discs. Do you remember these? Do you remember the Blu-rays? I feel that their reign hasn't lasted as long as DVDs, or is that just me? Okay, how much is 10 million Blu-ray discs? Well, if we were to stack them up on top of each other, their height would measure the height of 4 Eiffel Towers on top of one another. So how big is big data? As we've seen from the previous examples, it really can depend, and it tends to be a moving target. So here's the shocking truth about big data. If you go through a brief history of big data, you can find out that big data was also defined as data that's not fitting into memory or a disk. And this was called a big data problem back in 1997. How much could a disk store in 1997? 16.8 gigabytes. And that was state of the art. And that has to make you chuckle a bit. I'm not even sure that you can find smartphones anymore with that kind of memory. So what's the takeaway? Well, as the years pass, innovations and disruptions are made, so the data universe is growing all the time. And our view of how big data is changes. Let's also remember that its size, its volume, is only one of its characteristics. Big data can be complex, even if its volume is not big. But that's another topic for another day. Please click the like button if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on upcoming content. Thank you.